Every year, Americans spend over $17 billion on anti-aging skin creams, serums, and collagen supplements in bottles. $17 billion. And the uncomfortable truth hiding behind every one of those purchases is this: the vast majority of topical collagen products cannot penetrate the dermis. They sit on the surface of your skin and wash away in the shower. Meanwhile, the ancient world, from the Silk Road kitchens of Tang Dynasty China to the Roman military hospitals of the 2nd century, from the traditional medicine traditions of Ayurveda to the fishing villages of coastal Japan, had already solved the problem. Not with serums, with food. What researchers are now confirming, with clinical trials, dermal biopsies, and molecular imaging, is that collagen is rebuilt from the inside out. That the foods your great-grandmother considered healing were doing exactly what she believed they were doing, just in ways no one had yet mapped at the cellular level. Today we're breaking down 12 extraordinary foods, ranked from remarkable to absolutely extraordinary, that your body uses to construct, protect, and restore its own collagen from the ground up. Pay close attention to number 1. It is arguably the most validated anti-aging food in the entire scientific literature, and the cultures that consumed it regularly left behind a trail of evidence that researchers are still unpacking today. And when we reach number 6, I want you to hear the story of what happened to a group of soldiers in the 15th century, a story that changed the course of modern nutritional science and directly explains why one of the most powerful collagen-building compounds on this planet was almost lost to his Tory. Stay with me. We're going deep. Number 12. Pumpkin seeds. The zinc mineral your collagen enzymes cannot work without. In the book of Numbers, when the Israelites wandered through the wilderness, they remembered with longing the cucumbers, the melons, and the seeds of the lands they had left behind. Seeds were not afterthoughts in the ancient diet. They were concentrated survival nutrition, dense, stable, and capable of sustaining human life across brutal conditions. The pumpkin, botanically a member of the cucurbit family, was cultivated by Mesoamerican civilizations as far back as 8,000 years ago, and its seeds were consumed medicinally by the Aztecs, who used them to address parasitic infection, urinary health, and wound healing. In traditional European folk medicine, pumpkin seeds were prescribed by village healers for conditions we now understand involve zinc deficiency. That convergence is not coincidental. The Aztec healers, the European herbalists, and the early Ayurvedic practitioners, who also used pumpkin family seeds, were independently identifying a food with a specific physiological effect. Here is what they were responding to without knowing it. Zinc is a cofactor for an enzyme called prolyl hydroxylase, the enzyme that converts the amino acid proline into hydroxyproline, the modified form that actually gets incorporated into the stable collagen triple helix. Without zinc, prolyl hydroxylase cannot function. Without functional prolyl hydroxylase, newly synthesized proline chains cannot be stabilized into durable collagen fibers. The world's most generous amino acid supply does nothing if the enzyme that processes it is sitting idle. Zinc is the ignition. And the global prevalence of zinc insufficiency is remarkably high, estimated to affect over 2 billion people worldwide, concentrated particularly among those eating grain-heavy diets, because the phytic acid in grains binds zinc and prevents its absorption. A 28-gram serving of whole pumpkin seeds delivers approximately 2.2 milligrams of zinc, alongside meaningful magnesium, manganese, and plant-based protein. The magnesium alone is worth noting. It participates in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body, including several involved in protein synthesis. Lightly toast raw pumpkin seeds at low heat, below 170 degrees Fahrenheit, preserves the delicate oils and minimizes oxidation. Toss them into salads, stir them into grain bowls, or eat a small handful alongside berries in the late afternoon. One underappreciated preparation note: soaking pumpkin seeds overnight before toasting reduces phytic acid content and improves zinc bioavailability. This is a detail most nutritional guides skip entirely. The ancient healers who fermented or soaked grains and seeds before consumption were solving a bioavailability problem. The Aztec did not have a periodic table. They had 2,000 years of careful observation. The research is now examining why. Number 11. Berries. The collagen bodyguard that fights the enemy from inside. The Song of Solomon speaks of the vineyard, of the foxes that spoil the vines, of the care required to protect what is growing. It is a poem, yes. But it is also, if you follow the metaphor carefully, a precise description of what happens to your collagen every single day. You build it. And something, UV radiation, inflammatory cytokines, blood sugar spikes, environmental pollution. The net result of that daily battle is what we experience as aging skin. Across ancient civilizations, berries were understood as protective foods. Roman physicians documented the use of dark berries to support wound healing and strengthen connective tissue. Traditional Chinese medicine classified berries among the tonic foods that supported structural integrity and longevity. In Norse traditional medicine, bilberries, a wild relative of the blueberry, were applied to ulcers and given to soldiers as field medicine. Modern biochemistry has now mapped exactly why. Berries are loaded with anthocyanins, the pigments responsible for their purple, red, and blue colors. Anthocyanins are among the most potent free radical scavengers identified in plant biochemistry. They neutralize reactive oxygen species before those molecules can attack existing collagen fibers, and they inhibit the NF-κB inflammatory pathway, which is one of the primary triggers for MMP enzymes, the collagen-degrading enzymes your body overproduces in response to UV damage, stress, and chronic inflammation. A study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry demonstrated that berry anthocyanins measurably inhibited collagen degradation in skin tissue models. The effect was dose-dependent. More berries, more protection. Strawberries bring a separate contribution. A single cup delivers over 85 milligrams of vitamin C, exceeding the current recommended daily allowance in one serving. Blueberries add resveratrol, the polyphenol studied extensively for its effects on sirtuin pathways, the longevity-associated protein family that also influences collagen metabolism. Blackberries contain ellagic acid, a compound shown in laboratory studies, to prevent the breakdown of collagen fibers specifically caused by UV exposure. These are not overlapping benefits. Each berry is targeting a different point in the collagen destruction pathway. Here is a preparation detail rarely discussed. Freezing berries does not destroy anthocyanins. In some cases, the freezing and thawing process actually breaks cell walls and increases anthocyanin availability. Frozen berries, purchased in bulk and blended into smoothies or stirred into warm oatmeal, are one of the most cost-effective collagen protection strategies that exists. The foxes spoil the vines if you do not tend them. Berries tend the vines. Every single day. Number 10. Leafy greens. The chlorophyll discovery that changed what we thought we knew. In the book of Ezekiel, the river of life is described as flowing from the sanctuary, and on its banks grow trees, whose leaves are for healing. Leaf medicine is among the oldest documented forms of human therapeutics. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, an Egyptian medical text dating to approximately 1600 BCE, records the use of green plant poultices in wound healing. Roman physician Dioscorides cataloged dozens of leafy plants for their ability to treat skin conditions and support the healing of injured tissue. The Aztecs, the ancient Greeks, the early Chinese physicians, and the Ayurvedic practitioners of the Vedic period all independently arrived at the same conclusion: dark green leaves heal. The specific mechanisms differed in how they described them, but they were all pointing at something real. What they were pointing at, in part, was chlorophyll. Research published in the Journal of Medicinal Food found that dietary chlorophyll increased procollagen levels in skin cells and exhibited measurable sun protection effects at the cellular level. Procollagen is the precursor molecule that becomes mature collagen. Chlorophyll appears to stimulate its production. This is not a mechanism that anyone predicted. It is an emerging finding that keeps getting confirmed. The same molecule plants used to capture light energy may help protect human skin from light-induced collagen damage. That is genuinely remarkable. Beyond chlorophyll, dark leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collard greens deliver vitamin C for synthesis activation, vitamin K for the carboxylation of structural proteins involved in skin and bone matrix, lutein and zeaxanthin for protection of skin cells against UV oxidative stress, and magnesium for the hundreds of enzymatic processes required in protein synthesis. These are not independent benefits stacked loosely together. They form an overlapping protective network with multiple redundancies. Here is a critical preparation detail. Cooking leafy greens in cast iron significantly increases their iron content, meaningful for people with borderline iron status, since iron is a cofactor for the hydroxylase enzymes involved in collagen synthesis. Sautéing in olive oil increases the fat-soluble carotenoid absorption by a factor of 3 to 4 compared to eating the same greens raw. But raw greens preserve more vitamin C. The optimal approach, if you want both, is variety, some raw in salads, some cooked in olive oil with garlic. The ancient physicians who used leaves in both forms, fresh poultices and cooked broths, were again solving a bioavailability problem without knowing the word. Number 9. Garlic. The sulfur secret that ancient physicians prescribed for structural strength. Garlic appears in the oldest written medical text in human history, the Ebers Papyrus of ancient Egypt, dating to 1550 BCE, where it is prescribed for 22 distinct conditions, including infections, heart disease, and weakness of the connective structures. The workers who built the Great Pyramids were reportedly given garlic as part of their daily ration, and when supplies were interrupted, the work stoppage that followed. The Romans fed garlic to their legions before battle. In medieval Europe, it was the primary antimicrobial available to field surgeons. And in the Ayurvedic tradition, garlic was classified as a rasayana, a rejuvenating food that preserved youth and structural integrity. That cross-cultural pattern holds. Egypt, Rome, India, China, independently and across thousands of years, all arrived at garlic as a structural medicine. Here is the collagen mechanism most people have never heard. Garlic is exceptionally rich in sulfur-containing compounds, allicin, diallyl disulfide, and their downstream metabolites. Sulfur plays a role in the collagen molecule that is fundamental and irreplaceable. The cross-links that hold individual collagen protein chains together are partly sulfur-dependent. These cross-links give collagen its tensile strength, its ability to resist tearing and stretching under mechanical stress. Skin that is losing collagen cross-link integrity does not just look older. It is structurally weaker at the microscopic level. Adequate dietary sulfur helps maintain those bonds. Beyond sulfur, garlic contains allicin and its derivatives that have been shown to inhibit matrix metalloproteinase enzymes. This is a protective mechanism. Garlic is not just building collagen, it is actively slowing the rate at which you lose what you already have. Here is the preparation rule that most people get wrong. Crush your garlic, then wait 10 minutes before cooking it. This waiting period allows the enzymatic conversion of alliin into allicin to complete. Cooking immediately after crushing destroys the enzyme before the conversion can happen. Crush, wait, then cook. Or eat it raw in dressings and dips, which delivers even higher allicin bioavailability. Studies on garlic consistently use this distinction, raw or properly prepared garlic versus immediately cooked garlic, and the biological effects are measurably different. The Egyptian physicians who prescribed it to pyramid builders did not know the word sulfur. They knew empirically that workers who ate it were stronger and healed faster. The research is now mapping the molecular reason why. Number 8. Acerola cherry. The fruit that contains up to 100 times the vitamin C of an orange. This is the one I told you to wait for. And I want you to understand just how extraordinary this tiny fruit actually is, because the numbers here are not an exaggeration. The acerola cherry is a small, bright red fruit native to the Caribbean and tropical Central and South America. It has been cultivated in those regions for centuries. Indigenous Caribbean communities, the Arawak and Carib peoples, used it medicinally for fever, dysentery, and wound healing long before European contact. When Spanish colonizers arrived and documented local plant medicine, acerola was already a well-established therapeutic food. Traditional Brazilian healers used it as an immune tonic and wound-healing agent. Gram for gram, acerola cherry contains between 1,000 and 4,500 milligrams. A medium orange, for comparison, contains approximately 53 milligrams per 100 grams. The acerola cherry does not just edge out the competition, it dominates it by an order of magnitude. Some documented varieties have been measured at concentrations 80 to 100 times higher than orange. Because vitamin C is the rate-limiting factor in collagen synthesis. The enzyme prolyl hydroxylase, which converts proline into hydroxyproline for incorporation into the collagen helix, is completely and non-negotiably dependent on vitamin C to function. No vitamin C, no hydroxyproline. No hydroxyproline, no stable collagen. This was demonstrated definitively by the scurvy research of the 18th century, when sailors deprived of vitamin C began showing the most dramatic collagen breakdown symptoms in recorded medicine: gums dissolving from the teeth, old healed wounds reopening, skin deteriorating. Every single symptom was collagen collapse. Vitamin C is not a supporting actor in collagen synthesis. It is the lead. Beyond its astronomical vitamin C content, acerola also provides bioflavonoids and carotenoids that work synergistically to protect collagen from oxidative degradation. One important nuance researchers have documented: acerola vitamin C in the context of the whole fruit, with its natural flavonoid companions, may be absorbed differently than isolated ascorbic acid. The whole food matrix appears to matter. Acerola is available as frozen pulp in Latin grocery stores, as powder in health food stores, and increasingly in supplement form, derived from the whole fruit rather than synthetic ascorbic acid. A teaspoon of quality acerola powder stirred into cold water or a smoothie provides a collagen synthesis activation that is difficult to match with any other single food source. The ancient Caribbean healers who built their wound-healing medicine around this fruit did not know the word vitamin. They knew the fruit closed wounds faster and kept their people stronger. The research has now mapped exactly why. Number 7. Amla. The 3,000-year-old rejuvenating tonic that keeps its vitamin C even when cooked. In the Charaka Samhita, one of the foundational texts of Ayurvedic medicine, compiled between approximately 400 BCE and 200 CE, the text specifically connects it to the renewal of skin, hair, and connective tissue, to longevity, and to the reversal of what the authors called the visible signs of time. Over 3,000 years of continuous documented medical use. Amla, also called Indian gooseberry, was simultaneously documented in traditional Chinese medicine as a strengthening tonic, in Tibetan medicine as a life-extending herb, and in Unani medicine, the Greco-Arabic tradition that spread across the Islamic world, as a treatment for connective tissue weakness. That is 4 independent medical traditions on 3 continents, arriving at the same food. What they were responding to, without knowing it, was an extraordinary combination of vitamin C content. Amla contains 20 to 30 times the vitamin C of an orange, gram for gram. But the more scientifically remarkable fact is this: the vitamin C in amla is bound to a class of compounds called tannins that make it unusually heat stable. Most dietary vitamin C degrades rapidly with heat, light, and processing. Amla's vitamin C persists. When you dry it, powder it, or cook it, a significantly larger proportion of its vitamin C survives than you would lose from an equivalent orange or bell pepper subjected to the same treatment. This was a practical advantage that ancient physicians, who often used dried herbal preparations, were unknowingly exploiting. Clinical research on amla is growing. Studies have documented antioxidant activity, anti-inflammatory effects, and reductions in markers of oxidative stress. Research published in the International Journal of Food Sciences and Nutrition found regular amla consumption improved multiple metabolic and cardiovascular health markers, effects consistent with its documented antioxidant capacity. Emerging dermatological research specifically on amla's effects on skin structure and collagen expression is generating results, considered worth continued investigation. A half teaspoon of amla powder dissolved in warm, not hot water in the morning, before any food, is the traditional Ayurvedic preparation. The temperature instruction matters. Too hot and you defeat the purpose. Amla powder is widely available in Indian grocery stores and online. If you are not using it, you are leaving 3,000 years of empirical validation and a genuinely unusual nutritional profile on the table. If this kind of ancient knowledge resonates with you, the moment when a traditional remedy and a clinical study arrive at the exact same place, hit like and subscribe, because what's coming in the next 6 foods goes even deeper. We're going into the specific molecular mechanisms that most nutritionists have never discussed. Stay with me. Number 6. Citrus. The story that changed medicine and the compound that makes collagen possible. In May of 1747, a Scottish naval surgeon named James Lind conducted what is widely considered the first controlled clinical trial. His patients were 12 sailors aboard the HMS Salisbury, all suffering from scurvy. Their gums were bleeding into their food, their skin was covered in hemorrhagic spots. Wounds from months prior had physically reopened. Lynn divided them into 6 pairs and gave each pair a different treatment: cider, diluted sulfuric acid, vinegar, seawater, a paste of garlic and spices, or 2 oranges and 1 lemon per day. Within 6 days, the sailors receiving citrus had recovered enough to nurse the others. Every other treatment had failed entirely. What Lind had discovered, without the vocabulary for it, was that scurvy is collagen collapse. Every single symptom he documented was a manifestation of collagen falling apart in the absence of one critical compound. The enzyme prolyl hydroxylase, which converts proline into hydroxyproline for incorporation into the collagen protein triple helix, requires vitamin C as a cofactor. This is not optional chemistry. The enzyme physically cannot complete its reaction without vitamin C present. When sailors aboard ships with no citrus became vitamin C depleted after weeks or months at sea, this enzyme stopped working. Collagen chains could not be properly cross-linked. Existing collagen began to denature. Gums bled because the collagen holding mucosal tissue together was dissolving. Old scars reopened because the collagen fibers that had closed them were structurally failing. The entire body, every tissue that depends on collagen for structural integrity, began to come apart. Beyond enabling synthesis, vitamin C is a direct antioxidant that protects existing collagen fibers from free radical degradation. UV radiation, metabolic byproducts, environmental pollution, all generate reactive oxygen species that attack collagen. Vitamin C neutralizes those species at the site of attack. A medium orange provides approximately 70 milligrams of vitamin C. The current RDA sits at 65 to 90 milligrams for adults, but dermatological research on skin health and collagen expression consistently suggests that intakes in the range of 200 to 500 milligrams daily may be optimal for active collagen synthesis, easily achievable through dietary sources if you include citrus, bell peppers, and berries regularly. One preparation detail: the white pith of citrus fruits, the part people typically discard as bitter, contains concentrated flavonoids, particularly hesperidin and rutin, that increase vitamin C bioavailability and have independent anti-inflammatory effects. Eating the whole fruit, including the pith, rather than juicing, delivers a significantly different nutritional profile. The sailors aboard Lynn's ship who ate whole citrus recovered. The vitamin C extract in isolation, developed later, has never worked quite as well as the whole fruit in clinical settings. The food matrix matters. James Lind did not know the word vitamin. He had identified scurvy's cure. It took another 187 years for Albert von St-Jurgi to isolate and identify ascorbic acid. The remedy preceded the explanation by nearly 2 centuries. Number 5. Salmon, the marine collagen that mirrors your own. The ancient Israelites who lived along the Jordan River and the Sea of Galilee were familiar with fish as a central food. Fish is referenced throughout the Old and New Testaments not merely as dietary staple but as an instrument of provision. The multiplication of loaves and fishes, the disciples who were fishermen, the post-resurrection meal by the lake. In the Gospel of John chapter 21, Jesus prepares a breakfast of fish over a charcoal fire for his exhausted disciples. It is one of the most specific sensory-grounded food scenes in Scripture. What the fishing cultures of the ancient world, Galilean, Phoenician, Greek, Japanese, Norse, Pacific Islander, understood, coastal populations that ate fish regularly consistently demonstrated what observers described as physical resilience and structural strength well into old age. The collagen mechanism in salmon is specific and well documented. Salmon skin contains a concentrated source of marine type 1 collagen, the same collagen type that constitutes approximately 80% of the collagen in the human body and is the primary structural protein of human skin. Marine collagen has a molecular structure that closely mirrors human collagen, more closely than collagen derived from bovine or porcine sources, which is why researchers believe marine collagen has particularly high bioavailability. Your body recognizes it, processes it efficiently, and incorporates it into existing collagen synthesis pathways. A study published in the Journal of Cosmetic Dermatology found that marine collagen peptide supplementation over 12 weeks produced clinically meaningful improvements in skin elasticity, moisture, and surface roughness. The effect sizes were not marginal. Meanwhile, the omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA, throughout the salmon flesh provide an anti-inflammatory buffer that protects existing collagen from degradation. Inflammation is one of the primary triggers of MMP enzyme overactivation. Omega-3s reduce that inflammatory load, protecting the collagen you've built. Here is the preparation detail that most people miss: leave the skin on. When you grill, roast, or pan-sear salmon with the skin intact, the heat renders collagen from the skin directly into the flesh. The crispy, slightly charred skin on a properly cooked salmon fillet is not just flavor. It is marine collagen in a form your body is prepared to use. Wild-caught salmon is preferable for nutritional density and omega-3 content, but farmed salmon still provides meaningful marine collagen and anti-inflammatory fat. The disciples who ate fish with Jesus by the lake did not need a clinical trial. They ate the whole fish, skin and all, and lived in bodies that reflected it. Number 4. Egg whites. The amino acid architecture of the collagen triple helix. In the apocryphal Book of Tobit, preserved in the Catholic and Orthodox biblical canon and considered deuterocanonical, the liver, heart, and gall of a fish are used in healing. But eggs appear throughout ancient Near Eastern culture as symbols of new life, restoration, and structural renewal. Ancient Egyptian funerary texts placed eggs in tombs as symbols of resurrection. The Roman practice of consuming eggs at festival meals connected their consumption to themes of health and new beginnings. Early Jewish Passover tradition incorporated eggs as one of the symbolic foods of the Seder plate, gesturing at both mourning and hope. Across the ancient Mediterranean and Middle East, eggs were not merely food. They were associated with regeneration. The Proline story in egg whites is specific and irreplaceable. Egg whites are one of the most concentrated dietary sources of proline available in any whole food. Proline is one of the 2 amino acids, alongside glycine, that are absolutely essential for constructing the collagen triple helix. The helix is a twisted 3-strand protein structure, and proline appears with exceptional frequency in its backbone. Without adequate dietary proline, the body must divert resources from other functions or simply reduce collagen production. With consistent dietary proline supply, the molecular machinery runs at full capacity. Here is a detail rarely discussed in collagen nutrition literature. Proline's precursor compound is glutamate, and the conversion pathway requires pyridoxal phosphate, the active form of vitamin B6, as a cofactor. This means that B6 deficiency, which is more common than most people recognize, can bottleneck proline synthesis even when total protein intake appears adequate. Foods high in both proline and B6 are particularly valuable. Eggs provide meaningful B6 alongside their proline content, making them more synergistically useful than their amino acid profile alone suggests. Beyond proline, egg whites contain glycine in smaller amounts, the other critical collagen amino acid, along with lysine, another building block in the collagen construction pathway. The research on dietary protein quality and skin aging consistently shows that adequate protein intake from bioavailable, complete sources is directly associated with better skin structure and measurably slower visible aging. 2 to 3 whole eggs daily, prepared any way you choose, provides a meaningful contribution to your collagen amino acid requirements. The ancient cultures that valued eggs as symbols of regeneration were observing something real. The molecular architecture of the collagen helix begins with the amino acids in that egg white. Number 3. Bone broth. The medicine of every grandmother in every culture on earth. Proverbs 17:22 says that a cheerful heart is good medicine, and the Hebrew word used for medicine there, gaha. In the Talmudic literature, chicken broth was recommended specifically for the sick and recovering, for weakness, for respiratory illness, for the repair of the body after childbirth. Medieval Jewish physician Moses Maimonides, writing in the 12th century, prescribed chicken broth as a therapeutic food with a clinical specificity that is striking. He recommended it for respiratory conditions, for weakness of the joints, and for restoring vitality in those recovering from illness. And every grandmother in every culture on earth, regardless of religion or geography, arrived at the same prescription. In ancient China, bone broth was used to support kidney function and joint health. In Europe from the Middle Ages forward, hospital kitchens kept perpetual stockpots simmering over low heat, and the broth, strained, seasoned, and given to the sick, was considered the foundation of healing nutrition. Indigenous communities across the Americas, the Pacific Islands, and sub-Saharan Africa all had versions of slow-simmered bone preparation as medicine. This is one of the most consistent patterns in the entire history of human nutrition. The molecular explanation is now precisely mapped. When bones, ideally from grass-fed cattle, pastured poultry, or wild fish, are simmered for 12 to 24 hours with an acid catalyst such as apple cider vinegar, the collagen proteins locked in the bone matrix, periosteum, and connective tissue break down into gelatin and further into individual amino acids, glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline. These are the exact structural components your body needs to synthesize new collagen fibers in skin, cartilage, tendons, and the gut lining. A well-made bone broth literally provides collagen in its pre-digested, partially deconstructed form. A study published in the journal Nutrients found that women who consumed hydrolyzed collagen peptides, which is essentially what bone broth provides, daily for 8 weeks showed measurable improvements in skin hydration and elasticity compared to a control group. The effect was statistically significant and clinically meaningful. Separate research on collagen peptide consumption and joint pain in osteoarthritis showed reduction in pain scores and improvement in function. Here is a preparation truth that most modern bone broth recipes get wrong: the acid. A generous splash of apple cider vinegar, 2 to 3 tablespoons per gallon of water, added at the cold start before any heat is applied, gives the acid time to begin drawing minerals from the bone matrix before heat closes the pores. Many recipes add vinegar to already simmering broth, which is far less effective. Add it cold. Wait 30 minutes. Then begin heating. A properly made bone broth will solidify in the refrigerator into a firm gel. That gel is collagen. If your broth stays liquid in the refrigerator, you have made a flavorful stock. You have not made medicine. The gel is what every grandmother in every culture was after. The gel is the point. Number 2. Oysters. The most nutritionally dense collagen food in existence. In the book of Deuteronomy, shellfish are listed among the foods that ancient Israelites were instructed not to eat, a prohibition that has fascinated scholars for centuries. Some have argued it was a public health precaution in a pre-refrigeration climate. Others see it as a marker of covenant identity. What is historically certain is that virtually every coastal culture that did eat oysters, the Greeks, the Romans, the Japanese, the coastal peoples of South Asia and Southeast Asia, the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest and the eastern seaboard of North America, prized them as a food of extraordinary vitality and strength. Pliny the Elder wrote in the 1st century CE that oysters were the foundation of the Roman feast, consumed not just for pleasure but for the strength they imparted. Traditional Japanese medicine classified shellfish among the foods that reinforced the fundamental constitution, what Campo medicine called Jing, the foundational life essence. Coastal communities across Pacific Asia gave oysters to the elderly and the recovering as a restorative food. That cross-cultural pattern, documented across 3 continents and 2,000 years, is a powerful signal. Here is what they were responding to, mapped now in precise molecular detail. A single serving of 6 raw oysters provides approximately 32 milligrams of zinc, nearly 3 times the recommended daily intake for an adult. Oysters contain more zinc per serving than any other food on Earth. As we established with pumpkin seeds, zinc is the cofactor for prolyl hydroxylase, the enzyme that makes stable collagen synthesis possible. But oysters provide zinc in heme-bound form from animal tissue, which is dramatically more bioavailable. The zinc in an oyster is used. The zinc in a pumpkin seed is available. The difference matters. But oysters are not a single mechanism. They are also rich in copper, supporting the lysyl oxidase cross-linking pathway required for collagen fiber organization. They contain glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, the actual amino acid building blocks of the collagen helix itself. They provide omega-3 fatty acids for anti-inflammatory collagen protection. They are one of the richest dietary sources of vitamin B12. They contain significant iron, selenium, and complete protein. In one food, oysters provide a concentrated package of collagen precursors, enzymatic cofactors, and protective antioxidants that no other single food can match. You do not need to eat oysters daily. Even 1 to 2 servings per week, incorporated as a regular part of the diet, provides a zinc and copper delivery. Fresh, smoked, canned, all forms retain meaningful nutritional density. The coastal communities that built their vitality medicine around oysters were not wrong. They were precise. The research has now caught up to what they knew. Number 1. Gelatin and collagen peptides. The food that is collagen. There is a moment in the Gospel of John, chapter 19, that most readers pass over too quickly. After Jesus dies on the cross, the soldiers do not break his legs, as was standard practice to hasten death, because he is already gone. But one of them pierces his side with a spear, and the text records, blood and water came out. Early church fathers spent centuries debating the theological significance of that detail. But what the physician Luke, who wrote the third gospel, and what the anonymous eyewitness source behind John's account were describing with unusual precision, what is less discussed is what happened in the days before, in the Garden of Gethsemane, when the text describes Jesus sweating drops like blood. This condition, hematohidrosis, has been documented in modern medical literature in cases of extreme physical and psychological stress. It results from the rupture of capillaries feeding the sweat glands, from blood perfusing the skin surface. What the body was doing in that moment was precisely this, mobilizing every structural and vascular resource it had. Collagen, the protein that holds the vascular system together, holds the skin together, holds every tissue in the human body in structural relationship, was under maximum biological demand. I say this not to make a theological argument. I say it because the most profound observation about collagen in all of Scripture may be this: the body reveals its collagen infrastructure. When the body is healing or dying or under total stress, collagen is where the story is written. And the food that most directly addresses that collagen infrastructure across every culture, every medical tradition, every century of recorded human history. Because gelatin is not a collagen precursor. Gelatin is not a cofactor. Gelatin is collagen that has already been partially broken down by heat into a form your digestive system can handle. When bones are simmered until the broth solidifies upon cooling, that gel is gelatin. When a slow-cooked chicken carcass yields a broth so rich it becomes firm in the refrigerator, that is gelatin. When traditional French consommé sets into a firm aspic, when panna cotta holds its shape on the plate, when century-old recipes for invalid food describe a broth that must be solid when cold, what every one of those preparations had in common was this: they were delivering collagen to a body that needed it in the most available form possible. Here is the mechanism that makes gelatin categorically different from amino acid supplementation. When you eat gelatin, your gut absorbs short peptide chains, specific amino acid sequences. Research suggests that these specific fragments do not merely provide building material. They appear to act as biological signals, binding to receptors on fibroblast cells and stimulating those cells to increase their own collagen production. You are not just supplying the bricks. You may be sending a message to the construction crew to build faster. A randomized controlled trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that athletes who consumed gelatin before exercise had significantly higher collagen synthesis rates in their tendons and cartilage. The difference was approximately double the collagen synthesis markers in the gelatin group. That is a result researchers consider worth sustained investigation. Unflavored gelatin powder can be stirred into warm water, added to coffee or tea, incorporated into soups and sauces. You can make gelatin gummies with fruit juice, a preparation that children and adults alike have consumed across cultures for centuries, from medieval European aspics to Japanese wagashi confections that use agar, a plant-derived gelatin equivalent, in the same functional role. The cultures that aged best, that maintained supple skin, flexible joints, and structural resilience well into old age, were the cultures that used the whole animal, that simmered the bones, that prized the gel in a slow-cooked stew, the jiggly stock, the set broth. They did not know about fibroblasts or prolyl hydroxylase or collagen triple helixes. They knew empirically, through generations of careful daily observation, that these preparations kept people strong, kept skin resilient, kept joints moving. Modern science has now mapped the mechanisms in precise molecular detail. And the conclusion is exactly what it always was. Before you go, there is one principle running through every food we've covered today that almost nobody talks about. And it may be the most practically important thing in this entire video. Processing destroys the very compounds that make these foods work. Bone broth that has been shelf-stabilized at ultra-high temperature has significantly reduced gelatin content. Amla that has been extracted into a synthetic vitamin C isolate loses the tannin matrix that makes its vitamin C stable. Garlic that goes immediately from crush to heat loses the allicin that makes it therapeutically meaningful. Berries processed into juice lose the anthocyanins that concentrate in the fiber. Oysters that are canned in vegetable oil, rather than their own liquor, lose trace mineral bioavailability. Heat, refinement, isolation, and industrial processing strip the active compounds out of foods and leave behind something that resembles the original only in its macronutrient profile. The principle that runs through every item on this list is this: the closer the food is to the form in which it was consumed by the cultures that prized it, the more of its therapeutic value reaches the cells that need it. Raw garlic, whole berries, bone broth that gels, salmon with the skin on, amla in its traditional dried or fresh form. The processing question is not a minor technical footnote. It is the difference between a food that works and a food that merely resembles one. And that raises the larger question, the one worth sitting with after this video ends. We have spent a century building a food system optimized for shelf life, convenience, and cost reduction. We have stripped, refined, isolated, and reconstituted. And we now spend $17 billion annually trying to put back topically what we removed dietetically. Perhaps the most profound insight from the intersection of ancient medical tradition and modern nutritional science is not what any individual food does. It is what an intact, unprocessed, whole food diet was always doing, quietly, reliably, and without a label. If this video changed the way you think about the food on your plate, please hit like and share it with someone you think needs to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me which food surprised you most. Was it the acerola cherry, the oyster, or the simple power of a bone broth? I read every comment, and your questions help shape what we cover next. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a video. We are building something here, a community that takes food seriously, that honors ancient wisdom, and that demands real science. Because the most powerful anti-aging strategy doesn't come in a bottle. It never did. It comes on your plate. And now you know exactly what to put there.